Life happens everywhere, like it never even happened. Only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
People don't expect a female mechanic. They also don't expect lean cuisine made with organic ingredients. But here we are, introducing a new line from Lean Cuisine. My favorite, new Farmer's Market pizza. With its crispy organic crust and mozzarella cheese. Feed your phenomenal with Lean Cuisine.
Here we go. Discover.
I like your card, but I'm absolutely not paying an annual fee.
Discover has no annual fees.
Really? Yeah.
We just don't believe in them.
Oh, nice. You would not believe how long I've been rehearsing that.
No annual fee on any card, only from Discover.
Tonight we are tracking Hurricane Florence, a dangerous Category 4 hurricane likely to make a direct strike on the U.S. East Coast. And that puts states like North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia squarely in the crosshairs. And we're watching it for you right here on the Weather Channel. A storm that could go down as one of the strongest hurricanes to strike this area of the U.S. in decades. We're breaking down each and every threat for you, including life-threatening wind and storm surge expected at landfall with significant wave damage and beach erosion. And landfall, as we know, it will just be the beginning. Florence will produce heavy rain and potentially catastrophic inland flooding for days to come. We are going to show you tonight where more than 2 feet of rain is possible. Thank you for staying with us here for our live coverage here on the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Mike Bettis coming to you live from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Also tonight, meteorologist Chris Bruin joining us from Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knapp at the Weather Channel headquarters, breaking down every angle of Hurricane Florence. Let's update you on what we know right now, because we get new information hour by hour, folks. The president has now approved Virginia's emergency declaration. He's already approved North and South Carolina's. Now, the mayor of Washington, D.C. has also issued a state of emergency for the city there, and tolls now suspended on the Chesapeake Expressway for those that are evacuating. And here in South Carolina, they introduced reverse flow, or contraflow today on I-26 and Highway 501 to get people out of the Charleston area, to get people out of the Grand Strand area and Myrtle Beach. And a lot of people have evacuated, Dr. Knapp, and rightfully so. I know you have the newest advisory on Florence, still a Category 4, not a lot of changes, and maybe that's the biggest news. It's still a beast of a hurricane.
Yeah, it's trucking along, and I don't expect there to be really significant changes to the initial intensity when we get to the 11 p.m. advisory. I mean, it certainly could be a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker. Major hurricanes tend to go through these ups and downs, but we don't have any reason to believe this is weakening significantly, and that means we have to continue to prepare in the last day to day and a half that we have before it comes ashore. Now, all of the resources that we have to make the best forecasts and issue the best warnings and provide you the best information are being thrown at this system. I want to show you what the hurricane hunters from the Air Force are about to fly through. Look at this close-up of the hurricane on the GOES 16 imagery. This is just amazing. It's, you know, it goes through some fits and starts sometimes. You know, sometimes it looks like part of the eye wall is getting eroded and then it makes a comeback. I mean, this is a chaotic environment, but in the long term, it is steady state. This is probably going to remain a major hurricane all the way till it reaches the coastline. And even if it was to go through some internal structural changes and weaken maybe to a Cat 2 at landfall, that would, you know, seem like a great thing, but then it would probably be even larger and even a bigger storm surge threat. And there's no category for slow motion. This is going to be slow when it gets to the coast no matter what. So that's what the hurricane hunters are going to be flying through. The Air Force is on the way. They're about 2/3 of the way from where they took off on the coast. So within the next hour or two, we should have data from them. And then from Lakeland, Florida, the NOAA G4 jet has been flying around the hurricane. This circumnavigation kind of track is a synoptic surveillance mission where they drop dropsondes, the parachute-borne instruments, and those data get into the computer forecast models to help the track forecast be as accurate as it can be. And hopefully the models will get into better agreement, because there are still some unanswered questions about just where this is going to go. Yes, it's going to be coming to the east coast of the U.S. within the next couple of days. And yes, we are expecting a major hurricane to come ashore. But exactly where the eye comes ashore, exactly when, exactly how strong, we don't know that. That's why the entire hurricane warning area, the entire storm surge warning area needs to continue to prepare as if you're going to take a direct hit. And even if you don't, the wind and the water is still going to affect a lot of people. And then there's a lot of unanswered questions about this latter part of the track, exactly where it decides to meander. That's the mission from last night, by the way, from the NOAA G4 jet. And, they flew around it last night and they've been following it. And those data went into the models that led to the track forecast that we showed you today. This is the timing. This is the earliest reasonable time of arrival of winds of tropical storm force. We want you to be ahead of the game. The worst thing is to run out of time when you still think you have time to prepare. But we're pretty sure you've got until late tomorrow night at the very least to get ready on the coast of the Carolinas. Maybe it'll take a little longer than that. But by the time you go to bed tomorrow night, you got to be ready. Get everything done tonight and tomorrow for what is not just going to be a coastal event, but a wind event as well. And Mike Bettis, this is going to be a big inland flood event. It's going to be a catastrophic one, perhaps, possibly a catastrophic storm surge event. But those inland winds could take out power and do damage, and power outages can be surprisingly dangerous and even deadly if you're not careful. So much to concern ourselves with.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question here, Dr. Knapp, something specific to South Carolina. Earlier today, they lifted the mandatory evacuations for 3 counties down in the Low Country, for Beaufort and Colleton and Jasper counties. Knowing what some of the new model runs are saying and potentially putting those counties at risk again, do you think it might have been premature for them to lift those evacuation orders?
I don't think so, given the time frame at which you've got to make these decisions and what the forecast information was at the time. If it was to change again against them, I think it would take a while for that scenario to unfold to get it that far south. It would be after it gets to the coastal area and starts meandering around. But I think that for now, we're good with where the watches and warnings are, and that we are good with where the evacuations have been called. There's still time to pivot in case the southern and southwestern part of South Carolina gets more into play with storm surge. But they could still be in play with wind and heavy rainfall, and it's easier to get ready for that on short notice.
Good point there, though. They may have time, though. They could always, reinstitute those if they need be, because it could be more down the road than more immediate. Dr. Knapp, thank you for that. All right, so let's update you on what's happening here in Myrtle Beach. A lot of evacuations have taken place here. Horry County still under evacuation. We talked to a lot of folks today that were leaving, okay? Folks that were at an RV park. It's, a family that was coming from Charlotte. It's their only vacation they've planned all year long, okay? And unfortunately, it's an RV park that sits right on the beach. It's a gorgeous place to be, right? But today, it was time for the whole family to pack up and get out of town.
I think the hurricane stinks myself. This is our only vacation this year. We're having to head back today. We came down Sunday, and we're going to stay through Wednesday. Yeah, heading back, so cutting it a good bit short.
Well, we were just hoping that we would have a full vacation since it's our only one this year. And since the hurricane's coming and we're having to leave, we're just kind of disappointed.
Yeah, a lot of people disappointed, unfortunately, and I think that people that come down here this time of year, they really enjoy what comes their way because the weather's really nice this time of year. It's not blazing hot, but the water's still nice and warm, and you can get in and enjoy. So let's break down what's going on with Florence here. You take a look at that forecast cone, and we look at this thing, hour by hour. It seems like, right? Are there going to be any significant changes? What's interesting about the cone is as it comes right toward the coastline, what happens at a potential landfall. There are a lot of different scenarios within that, north and south, and a meandering track, but we do know that we think that pretty significant winds will accompany this, and tropical storm force winds could go well inland. Hurricane force winds could actually go a good bit inland as well. If you evacuate to a place like maybe Raleigh, and you think, I'm fine in Raleigh, there could be issues there with winds that come in. So just be mindful of that when you're evacuating and where you might be headed to, okay? Because where you're headed to might have issues as well. But for a lot of us, it's going to be issues probably with wind, with rain, and with storm surge. So keep all those things in mind and what could be coming away. Storm surge, I think, for the most part, Dr. Knapp, is the one thing that most of us fear. because we saw, previous hurricanes, and I think all of us look at the big benchmark maybe for storm surge, which is probably a Katrina. We all fear that, right? We don't want that to happen to our community. We don't fall a victim of that, but it's better to be safe than sorry in almost every single circumstance when it comes to a major landfalling hurricane.
Yeah, and the only way to ensure your safety from storm surge is not to be there when it happens. There's nothing I can tell you to do in your home that will ensure your safety if you stick around. So don't do that. Storm surge is historically the deadliest hurricane hazard of all, especially in these big events. We can lose lots of lives in one event if people don't evacuate. And I want to urge people not to bank on the exact track and intensity from the Hurricane Center right down the middle of this cone being exactly what is going to happen. You don't want to be where Mike Bettis is in Myrtle Beach and think, okay, this is going to miss to my north, I'm not going to get the storm surge. We don't know that. You don't know that. We don't want to hope the problem away. We have to plan for the possibility of landfalls in all of these areas that are under the storm surge and hurricane warnings. These are the areas in general that are under the storm surge watches and warnings, the same stretch of coastline as the hurricane warning. And this is why, because the combined effects of storm surge and tide, when they get to about 3 feet above normally dry ground or greater, that's when we consider that to be life-threatening. And this is what is expected to occur with storm surge flooding above normally dry ground in the coastal areas. In parts of North Carolina, it could be 9 to 13 feet. Either side of that, 6 to 9. Myrtle Beach, we're expecting somewhere in that area to get 4 to 6 feet. This is what we should be planning for. That has a very reasonable chance of occurring. And all of that is life-threatening. But when you look at the potential storm surge flooding map from the Hurricane Center that accounts for all the uncertainties in track and intensity and size, shape of the coastline, you realize in North Carolina that it's not just the Outer Banks, it's not just the beachfront. Look at all of these colors representing locally the possibility of the storm surge flooding getting, up to 6 feet above normally dry ground. Look at Elizabeth City, Edenton, the Columbia area. If you go farther south, the Sound and the river could bring the water up to the New Bern area in a certain scenario. Morehead City, you're not right on the barrier island. You could get storm surge flooding. And then Wilmington, the water could come up the river in a certain scenario. So we have to treat this as if we're going to get that storm surge in our community and evacuate if told to do so. And hopefully that's what people are doing. So let's take a look at what's going to be happening inland as well. Chris Bruin, you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's an area that's not susceptible to storm surge. However, you have the possibility of damaging winds that could take out the power, and also that inland flood risk that can take lives of people who get on the roads.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Dr. Knapp, especially if it follows a more southern track and maybe just lingers over parts of northern South Carolina, southern North Carolina. Again, there's so many details that still have yet to be worked out, but do know that's a possibility here, even as far inland as places like Charlotte, Statesboro, Statesville, North Carolina, and even towards Hickory and Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. So you may think you're out of the woods going that far away from the coast, but in reality, you're not, because this is going to be a slow-moving storm. And while we're not going to be dealing with those major hurricane force winds here in Charlotte, we could certainly see tropical storm force gusts at times, and with a lot of rain, that's going to loosen the root systems of a lot of trees. A very canopied city here in Charlotte, and we could be talking about downed trees, covering roads, taking out power. So be prepared for power outages, even here in Charlotte and points off towards the west, even as far west as Asheville and parts of the Savannah River Valley, like Augusta and Athens, Georgia. All right, let's talk about flooding, because that's going to be a big concern. Take a look at what the Euro model is referring to. Now, this changes and updates daily. So again, this is just a depiction. Don't get too caught up on the exact numbers and the exact location. That will likely change. But do know, Charlotte, areas in South Carolina, the Piedmont, even as far west as northern Georgia, getting in on some of those higher totals, nearly a foot of rain or more. Some areas could potentially get 2 feet of rain, and that's going to be dealing with flooding. At the coast, we're going to see the rain moving in by Thursday and into Thursday night. That's when they'll see the worst impacts. And then it slows down and stalls out almost. And we're talking about Friday night when a lot of that moisture starts to work into this part of the state, the I-77 corridor, getting from Columbia, South Carolina, up towards the Virginia line. And then the rain's going to be with us all the way through the weekend and even beyond. Let's quickly talk about some of the flooding factors we have here in western North Carolina. Keep in mind, once you go west of Charlotte, you deal with topography. You get into some of the highest mountains on the East Coast, Mount Mitchell being the tallest mountain east of the Rockies, nearly 7,000 feet. So when you bring that tropical air and rise it up over the terrain, you're going to be squeezing out even more of that moisture as much as possible, and that enhances the rainfall. Then you have the runoff, and that's going to cause some more flooding potential, flash flooding, and that can happen very quickly. As we know, Dr. Nab, Asheville is in the top 5 wettest year to date on record, along with several other cities here across North Carolina. So flooding is going to be a big factor, not just at the coast, not just here in Charlotte, but even in towards the southern Appalachians. It's going to be a big deal, and that flood threat is going to be serious, if not catastrophic.
Yeah, and inland floods can take lives if people aren't careful and they got to stay off the roads. Let's take a look at where the flooding is expected to occur and when. Day number 1 is going to be Thursday night into Friday morning, as the weather starts to go downhill maybe late tomorrow night, and flash flooding is likely to very likely in portions of eastern North Carolina, even possible farther inland than that. But that's just the beginning. That's just day number 1. Over the next several days, 10 to 20 inches, isolated 30 inches could fall in this area, with outer bands causing flash flooding to be possible beyond that. And this could be revised, but the bottom line is that we don't know exactly where the rainfall is going to be the heaviest. That's track dependent, but catastrophic flooding is expected in some locations. Some areas could flood with just a few inches of rain, and flooding from rivers could occur long after the rain stops. Mike Bettis, we've just got to convince people to promise themselves not to drive over a water-covered roadway or around a barricade. We lost too many people that way in Matthew in North Carolina a couple years ago.
It's how we get ourselves into trouble, Dr. Nab. We've got to use our brains. We've got to be smart in situations like this. Florence is a beast of a hurricane aiming toward the Carolinas, but it's not the only risk to the U.S. We'll have more on Olivia when we come back.
When you carry out large 3-topping pizzas from Domino's for $7.99 each, you don't want bad roads ruining good pizza. So we're doing something about that. If your drive home is rough on pizza, submit it at havenforpizza.com and we might fix it.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. Why accept it from your allergy pills? Flonase Sensimist relieves your worst symptoms, including nasal congestion, which most pills don't. It helps block 6 key inflammatory substances. Most pills block 1. Flonase Sensimist.
Update your floors with Empire Today's $50 room sale. Buy 1 room, get floors for all other rooms for just $50 each. So when you buy 1 room, it's only $50 for laminate in the kitchen, $50 for carpet in the bedroom, and $50 for hardwood in the office. There's no limit. Buy 1 room and it's $50 for floors in each additional room. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today. Let's face it, everyone would love a smartphone these days, but not everyone wants unlimited everything. For people who just need GPS, a good camera, and a few apps, there's TracFone, the original no-contract wireless provider. Smartphone plans start as low as $15, with phones from top brands like Samsung and LG at very affordable prices. TracFone has nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
TracFone, for moments that matter. Available at Walmart for a low price every day.
With a range of SUVs perfect for any adventure, you can be in your element, in any element. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Brand new day is at my feet, and I'm singing low, going sweet, giving more.
This is a beer inspired by nature, made with organic grains and sourced from the finest farms. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. A beer like no other, with a pure, refreshing taste.
Cheesy snacks are the most satisfying combination of crunch with cheese. With their delicious perfection. Cheese! It's not all about you, Cheese.
You think I have a mouth? I'm a wheel of cheese.
Got a point.
Yeah. Cheese it, cheesy, crunchy satisfaction.
Season after season, year after year, customers have found that when it comes to replacing their windows, there's only one company to call, Renewal by Andersen. Call 1-800-352-3613 now. So what makes Renewal by Andersen so good? Fibrex material, an innovative composite material exclusive to Andersen that provides strength and durability, far surpassing vinyl. In fact, it won't warp or bow over time like vinyl does. Get the window replacement solution proven to stand the test of time, plus the peace of mind that comes from a superior service experience. That's Renewal by Andersen. Call 1-800-352-3613 today and get 20% off your entire order with this exclusive TV offer. Again, that's 800-352-3613 for 20% off. Plus, get no money down, no interest, and no payments for 12 months. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-352-3613 now.
911 emergency.
A lot of things can change in an investigation, but the weather never lies.
Storm of Suspicion, the all-new series, premieres October 7th.
Currently in our area, 78 degrees under fair skies. Tonight, generally clear. Low 59. Winds south-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday, sunny along with a few clouds. High 83. Winds south-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday night, mostly clear skies. Low 66. Winds southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Weather Channel's ongoing coverage of Hurricane Florence. Still a Category 4 hurricane, winds 140 miles an hour, and still taking direct aim at the Carolinas. I'm Mike Bettis in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where mandatory evacuation has been ordered here, and a lot of people have left town. Not a lot of folks have still left here, just a few, but a lot of them have left. A lot of businesses and shops and stores here have closed down. Schools have closed. Government offices are closed. And they actually started reversing flow on some of the highways today to get people out of the coastal areas efficiently. They introduced contraflow about noontime today on I-26, and so they just reversed all the lanes, and everything goes westbound instead of eastbound. Nothing goes eastbound. Everything goes westbound to get people out of harm's way. And I-26 is really the main thoroughfare you're going to get out of the Charleston and Hilton Head areas. And then Highway 501, they reverse flow, so everything's westbound on 501 between, say, Conway and Marion. That's how you're going to get everyone out of the Grand Strand area where we are and the Myrtle Beach area. And, of course, shelters being set up as well. We're going to have 25 shelters open in South Carolina, dozens of shelters open in North Carolina as well. How about this one in Knightdale that's open and ready for folks if need be. And the key things to remember if you're going to evacuate, and they've said that specifically about the shelters here in South Carolina too, take bedding with you. Some of these shelters will not have cots, so you're going to need to take blankets, and you're going to need to take pillows with you, take some food with you, take your medications, toiletries, all those things that you're going to need. The shelter is there basically for you to have a safe roof over your head, and that's about it. Okay, it's just a place for you to escape the worst impacts of the storm, but it's not necessarily there for your comfort. It's there to save your life. So let's talk about more impacts that we could see, not just in South Carolina, but also in North Carolina. NBC's Jay Gray is live tonight in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. And I think that's really maybe the overall message here, Jay, is for a lot of people, it's going to be a serious inconvenience, right? But you evacuate to save your life.
It's moving day across the Southeast.
It's important for us to evacuate. We don't need to take chances.
Even the Navy shipping out ahead of the storm.
We are in a very deadly and important game of chess with Hurricane Florence.
The next move for more than 1 million along the coast is to higher ground.
For us, we've never been through one.
We don't have a clue what to do or where to go.
Officials warning, even those who've been through storms before, this one is different.
This storm is a monster. Don't bet your life on riding out a monster.
Alora Burton is securing everything she can before she leaves.
I have a second story, so I took all the electronics upstairs, the TV and everything.
On the first floor, the furniture is raised and stacked, guarding against a potential storm surge.
Hurricane Florence is the strongest storm to target the Carolinas and this part of our country in decades.
Still, there are some who plan to ride it out.
We're ready. We're ready every year. And, if it's your time, it's your time.
The time to prepare leaving or staying is running out across the strike zone.
That's NBC's Jay Gray reporting from Carolina Beach. Let's bring in now our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. Dr. Knabb, I want to ask you something specific, okay? Because we've had a lot of people come up to us today and say, here's where I live. Here's the kind of home I live in. I live this far from the beach, or I live this far from the sound. Should I evacuate? And it's hard, I say, why err on the side of caution and go ahead and do it, but it seems like there's hesitation on people's minds about whether they really should or not. What would you say to them?
If an official tells you to evacuate because of storm surge, you need to not question that and you need to go, because that's based on information from the Hurricane Center, the local forecast offices of the Weather Service, on the best available information and modeling, and they're trying to save your life because storm surge kills. It's the deadliest hurricane hazard of all, and the only way to ensure your safety from storm surge is to evacuate. And if you're not in an evacuation zone and you're worried about safety from wind, that is a very personal decision. But if you don't feel safe from wind, if you don't feel safe from a tornado in your home, then you aren't going to feel safe from a major hurricane in your home. And that's the kind of wind we could be talking about with a direct hit.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this a lot before. It's like, okay, I'm not going to be in a flood zone. I'm not going to be in a storm zone. But my goodness, all the trees that could come down on your house. I have such a huge fear in a big windstorm of a tree falling on my house. And that's what I say to these folks. Think about the trees that could come down in your neighborhood and what risk that would pose to your home or block you from getting out of your neighborhood, and you're stuck, right? All right. We're going to talk a lot of details about Florence throughout the night, and so you just stay with us for that. But Dr. Knabb, you're also closely tracking Olivia, which now poses a direct threat to Hawaii.
Yeah, the winds are starting to increase in Maui and on the Big Island as the tropical storm Olivia begins to arrive in the Hawaiian Islands. The visible imagery shows us we got a swirl with this just offshore, and it's about to go over the islands. And we also have the tropical storm Isaac in the central tropical Atlantic. It is going to be moving over the Windward and Leeward Islands here, either as a strong tropical storm, maybe as a hurricane. Time to prepare is running out, maybe about a day and a half. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, damaging winds and flooding rains. More on Florence and where the storm surge specifically could occur. Who needs to evacuate? Stay with us.
This program brought to you by Daly's Total One multifocal contact lenses. Now you can see clearly near and far.
I can't read a thing off of here.
All right, have we decided?
We actually forgot our readers.
Here you go.
As your eyes get older, the adjustments you make can be frustrating. Ask your eye doctor about Daly's Total One multifocal contact lenses. They let you see clearly near and far with a contact lens that feels like nothing. Learn more and get a free 5-day trial at seenearandfar.com.
I think it was a great idea.
You stop. Our old TV provider decided to stop providing our school's games.
So I bought this bad boy. Road trips every Saturday.
And tetanus shots every Monday. But that Dish guy, the one who listens, he heard this thing coming, and he said, switch to Dish.
Game finder.
You get every major D1 football game right here at home.
You want to check out the inside? Carpet's original.
Stay home and get every major D1 game with Dish tuned into you.
Ordinary eggs? Not in this house, because that's no ordinary family. That's your family, which is why you didn't grab just any cheese. You picked up new Kraft expertly paired cheddar and Swiss for eggs. Beat that. Kraft, family greatly.
Nothing outlasts Energizer Ultimate Lithium. Hey, you can't do that. Can he do that?
Yeah, he's good.
Energizer Ultimate Lithium. It's the #1 longest lasting battery.
I can't believe it. That everything sticks to Stefan Diggs' hands? No, I can't believe how easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on the car insurance with Geico. Cool, huh?
Yeah.
He plays football, huh?
Yeah.
Believe it, Geico could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Boo!
I'm sorry for what I did to your face.
All good. Have a break. Breaks are good. Have one.
Daily Dollar deals are here at Long John Silver's, where you can get a different deal every day. Like sliders, Baja fish tacos, and popcorn shrimp. Popcorn chicken, crab cakes, and sweets. All for just $1 each. Only at Long John Silver's.
Don't forget that the past can speak to the future.
I'm going to be your substitute.
Don't assume the substitute teacher has nothing to offer. Same goes for a neighborhood. Don't forget that friendships last longer than any Broadway run. Mr. President. Don't settle for your first draft or your 10th draft. You get to create the room where it happens. Just don't think you have to do it alone. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't live life without it.
Hungry to explore unique flavors? Try new Stouffer's Urban Bistro with ingredients like Kentucky bourbon aged in charred oak barrels for that sweet taste. Feed your hunger for flavors like bourbon glazed chicken with new Stouffer's Urban Bistro. Stouffer's, what are you hungry for?
This is going to be a storm that's going to be a very large one, far larger than we've seen in perhaps decades.
Hurricane Florence is setting up to be a devastating event, forecasting a major landfalling storm, Category 3 or 4 storm at landfall. If you've been asked to leave, get out of the areas that are going to flood and get into a facility that can withstand the winds.
Everybody should get out. I mean, you have to listen to your local authorities.
Getting out of harm's way is the key. Hurricane Florence poses so many risks with wind, with rain, with storm surge. Welcome back to our continuing coverage, folks. And we're going to bring you a live exclusive behind-the-scenes look at FEMA's operations tomorrow, right here on the Weather Channel. See the inner workings of the agency and how they respond to a natural disaster. It's an exclusive look you're only going to see on the Weather Channel. Hopefully you can join us for that tomorrow. Well, let's update you on what we know right now with Hurricane Florence. Here in South Carolina, the state has already deployed 800 National Guardsmen to respond to Hurricane Florence. In Charleston, evacuation shelters there not built to withstand winds higher than a Category 3. So what they're doing now is preparing buses to potentially move evacuees to neighboring counties to get them out of harm's way if potentially a more significant hit would come to Charleston. Duke Energy is anticipating widespread and potentially lengthy power outages across the Carolinas, warning residents now to prepare for days without power. I might even add weeks to that. Facebook is activating its community help feature to help with recovery needs. So a lot of moving parts right now, but right now just trying to arm you with information so you can make the best decision for you and your family. So what's happening with Florence right now? With the newest advisory that came in at 8 o'clock, we have winds that's still at 140 miles per hour. Not a whole lot changed in the most recent advisory. We'll get a full advisory that comes in at 11 that may update the track and see if it shifts at all. But right now, still an incredibly powerful hurricane and still taking aim at the Carolina coastline here. And the thing about it is, once it gets closer to landfall, where might it go? That's when things get a little bit more difficult with the forecast, because the steering patterns right now aren't definitive as to what may happen after, say, day 2 with that forecast. But we do think we'll take a pretty significant hit right at the coastline with wind and surge, and then a very significant rainfall threat that goes well inland as well. And the Weather Prediction Center out of D.C. issuing only its second ever high-risk excessive rainfall flash flood risk 3 days in advance. Okay, that shows you the confidence that they have in that forecast. When's the other time they did that, you may ask? Last year for Hurricane Harvey. And we know how that unfolded. 60 inches of rain was the peak rainfall total with Harvey, and so many places around Houston went underwater. That could be a possibility here in South Carolina and North Carolina, potentially even Virginia as well, depending on where the track goes specifically. But there could be some areas that we're forecasting now more than 2 feet of rain, locally 30+ inches. Think about that. 30+ inches of rain that could fall. For a lot of areas around here, that'd be roughly 9 months of rain to happen over the course of just a couple of days. That's epic flooding. It could potentially set a state rainfall records. The state rainfall record from a tropical system in North Carolina is Hurricane Floyd back in 1999, 24 inches of rain. And then 18.5 inches here in South Carolina is the state rainfall record from a tropical system. That was in Jerry back in 1995. So a lot of issues with rain, unfortunately, in this forecast. And Dr. Knabb is back with us. Dr. Knabb, you've talked about this numerous times with previous systems that have made landfall. It just gets scarier and scarier when you think about the large area that could be at risk for flash flooding and then river flooding as well.
Yeah, and the extent of inland winds that could cause damage and power outages. And Mike, where you are in Myrtle Beach area, there's another thing to keep in mind when you're talking about sheltering and wind, and that is high rises. There are a lot of high rises in the Myrtle Beach area, for example, and here are a few things to keep in mind. If you are at the 25th floor of a building in a coastal high rise, you're buying yourself another category stronger. So if it comes ashore as a category 4, you might experience category 5 if you're up that high. And then flying debris from nearby buildings poses a dangerous threat no matter what the strength of the hurricane is. And we don't want you to vertically evacuate. So let's take a look very briefly at the South Carolina coast. Let's zoom in down to the Myrtle Beach area, and you will see how built up this area is. So here's the airport, and then this entire stretch from Myrtle Beach to North Myrtle Beach has a number of high rises. Let's take a look in there. I've stayed on this coastal area before. Absolutely beautiful views from those high rises, but I can guarantee you some of these structures are up at 15, 20, 25 stories or greater, and you do not want to be in one of these buildings when the strong winds come ashore. And look at that, it just goes for miles and miles. And these are in evacuation zones. So if you're told to evacuate, leave these areas. Don't vertically evacuate in your high rise, because you could end up being trapped in a flooded community with no power and no help can come. So evacuate all buildings in storm surge areas told to go. We'll be back with details on Florence. Olivia, Isaac, stay with us.
Lovely. How does one make such delightful cucumber sandwiches?
Frank's Red Hot sauce, Your Majesty. I put that on everything.
Frank's Red Hot Original, the perfect blend of flavor and heat.
Nothing beats the comforts of home. Introducing new Scott Comfort Plus. It's 3 times stronger for unbeatable comfort. It's how Scott Comfort Plus families keep life rolling.
Cheese's snacks are the most satisfying combination of crunch with cheese. With their delicious perfection.
Cheese!
It's not all about you, cheese.
You think I have a mouth? I'm a wheel of cheese.
Got a point.
Yeah. Cheese it, cheesy, crunchy satisfaction.
Who knew?
Yeah. So you're with the UPS store?
Yes. In fact, we printed these right here.
Oh, I thought you guys just did shipping.
No, we do printing, packing, faxing, notarizing, shredding, mailboxing, copying, taping, binding, consulting, designing, returning, storing, grading. Oh, and of course, shipping.
So you're into shipping?
We also do printing, packing, faxing.
Come into the UPS store today for everything your small business needs. And of course, shipping.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Come on, come on. What's my name? What's my name? What's my name?
John Tyson's motto was, "When better chickens are hatched, we will hatch them."
It's why all of the Tyson chicken that bears his name is raised with no antibiotics ever. Every nugget, strip, and drumstick. Keep it real. Keep it Tyson.
Enhance your moments. San Pellegrino, tastefully Italian.
I'm so frustrated. I just want to find a used car without getting ripped off.
You could start your search at the all-new Carfax.com.
That might help. Show me the Carfax.
Now the car you want and the history you need are easy to find.
Show me used trucks with great deals.
Pretty cool.
Show me the Carfax.
Start your used car search and get free Carfax reports at the all-new Carfax.com.
911 emergency. My husband is having trouble breathing.
First responders hear it a lot. And everyone age 65 and older needs to hear it too. The flu and its complications can be deadly, especially for those with a chronic medical condition. That's why there are higher strength flu vaccines made for seniors. Ask your doctor or pharmacist for a senior flu shot. Do it today before the flu becomes an emergency.
911, she has the flu. Please hurry.
Liberty Mutual Accident Forgiveness means they won't hike your rates over one mistake. See? Liberty Mutual doesn't hold grudges.
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Welcome back to the Weather Channel's continuing around-the-clock live coverage here of Hurricane Florence now that we're T-minus 48 hours away from approaching landfall. So hopefully you have finalized those preparations near the coast, but even well inland. We're talking places like Charlotte, North Carolina. Now's the time to get prepared. Now's the time to run those errands in case the power goes out, because it's certainly a possibility. Don't think if you're evacuating from the coast here to Charlotte that you're not going to lose power. Because we could. We certainly could. We have the chance to see strong tropical storm force gusts. Now, while we're not going to be dealing with the storm surge effects that could be catastrophic along the coast, and also those major hurricane force winds, we still could see our fair share of trees down, power outages, and more importantly, inland flooding, because that's going to be the biggest risk here. We do know UNC Charlotte has canceled classes starting at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So after tomorrow, no more classes on Thursday and or Friday, so people can prepare in advance of this storm. It's not going to be safe once the rain starts to go out and drive, because you're going to be dealing with flooding. And at night, Mike, that's a whole different ball game. Inland flooding is a huge threat, and potentially in some spots this could be catastrophic, along with the storm surge that you're going to be facing there, possibly along the Grand Strand and those major hurricane force winds.
Well, yeah, I think Chris really like three serious calling cards of Florence: storm surge, wind, and flooding. They're all on the table, and they all could be really significant. Not just like, hey, it's going to be a windstorm, but everything else is cool. Or it's just going to be storm surge and everything else cool. Or it's just going to be rain. All of them are big, okay? So big, in fact, we were talking with Greg Carbon from the Weather Prediction Center, and they put out their excessive rainfall outlooks, okay? For 3 days out, this forecast 3 days out, they're doing a high risk, which they've only ever done one time in their history, and that was for Hurricane Harvey. Here's Greg talking about what it could mean for the Carolinas.
When I first started looking at this system, it reminded me a lot of Hurricane Floyd, which I believe was responsible for the 24-inch record in North Carolina, Southport, North Carolina, very close to Wilmington. So I do believe that this has the potential to threaten that record. I'm not happy about that. That's not an area that wants to see 2 feet of rain. But it certainly looks at this point in time that will be the ground zero for some of the heaviest rainfall associated with Florence. Greater uncertainty as we get inland and the storm slows down and its track beyond Friday. Still a lot of uncertainty where this heavier rainfall will end up, but increasing confidence that eastern North Carolina is really going to bear the brunt, at least initially, of the heaviest rainfall.
Really significant rain coming our way. Can't say it enough. Protect yourself from the water. Let's bring back in our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. Dr. Knabb, during Hurricane Floyd, boy, remember that one very distinctly. I covered that hurricane right here in South Carolina. I lost a vehicle in a flood. in that hurricane, and it was scary. It really was. And I mean, a lesson learned there by me, and haven't done it since, but it only takes once, I feel like, to learn your lesson. But maybe at this point, don't let there be a lesson, right? Just be smart about it all and avoid the water at all costs, because it can be so dangerous, not just at the coast, but truly it could be hundreds of miles inland.
Yeah, I can sum up both the storm surge and the inland flooding issue in one thought that we ought to get really, really dedicated to is we need to do everything we can to stay out of the water. Whether it's storm surge, you evacuate before it gets there, and then for inland flooding, don't drive your car into it. Yes. Okay, so that's what we got to focus on. Stay out of the water, salt water or fresh water. The problem with the slow motion as it reaches the coast is that it's going to be a long duration event, and the longer it hangs around, the more rain that falls and the more flooding occurs. And this is just day one. This is Thursday night into Friday morning. This is day one of the heavy rainfall, where flash flooding is likely in many portions of eastern North Carolina and could occur in other areas as well. But then it goes on from there. We've got the possibility of 10 to 20 inches, locally 30 inches of rainfall over a large area event total, and then the flash flooding is possible even beyond that. And so, Mike, one thing we have to understand, though, is that it's really hard to pinpoint who's going to get the heaviest rain. That's kind of track dependent, you know, where it stalls, where the banding sets up. But catastrophic flooding is expected somewhere, and probably in multiple locations, but we just don't know who's going to get it. And some places could flood with just a few inches of rainfall, especially up in Virginia, where they've had so much rainfall up to now. And then I'm sure your experience in Floyd, you remember that some of the rivers came up days and days after the rain stopped.
Yeah, they did. You know, I think one thing, Dr. Nab, that can be confusing to a lot of people, and understandably so. You know, they want to get away from some surge or issues they may have along the coastline, but they're not exactly sure where to go inland to avoid threats from flooding, and so they're really apprehensive about what to do or where to go because they're unsure. Yeah, now don't let that stop you from evacuating from storm surge. You got to get out of there. But then, yes, be careful and choosy about where you're going to shelter during the storm to be safe from the wind and in the least flood-prone area that you can. But in any case, during this event, you don't want to be in your car driving onto a water-covered roadway or driving around a barricade that said road closed. We lost people that way in Matthew a couple years ago. Don't enter floodwaters in any way. Evacuate on short notice if you are caught in an area that officials say you got to get out of. If flooding traps you in your home, call 911 and don't touch anything electrical. So many ways we can stay safe from flooding. We'll tell you how to stay safe from everything else Florence has to bring.
Brand new day is at my feet, and I'm singing low and sweet, giving more.
This is a beer inspired by nature, made with organic grains and sourced from the finest farms. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold, a beer like no other, with a pure, refreshing taste.
Does this map show the Peninsula Trail?
You won't find that on a map. I'll take you there. Take this left. If you listen real hard, you can hear the whales.
Hear that? Our Subaru Outback lets us see the world. Sometimes in ways we never imagined.
The fact is, there are over 9,600 roads named Park in the U.S. It's America's most popular street name, but all state agents know that's where the similarity stops. If you're on Park Street in Reno, Nevada, the high winds of the Washoe Zephyr could damage your sighting. And that's very different than living on Park Avenue in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where ice dams could cause water damage. But no matter what park you live on, one of 10,000 local Allstate agents knows yours. Now that you know the truth, are you in good hands?
Our dad was in the hospital.
Because of smoking.
It was still hard to have a cigarette.
Had to.
But then we were like,
what are we doing?
The Nicoderm CQ patch helps prevent your urge to smoke all day. Nicoderm CQ. You know why, we know how.
The moment you realize grilling out shouldn't mean missing out.
At Lowe's, you can buy your next grill online and pick up at the store so you can get grilling sooner.
Get up to 20% off select grill smokers and accessories during the Lowe's grill clearance.
Make sure whatever you're into outside doesn't ruin your vehicle's inside. WeatherTech keeps you protected with everything from cargo liners, bump step, and side window deflectors to our laser measured floor liners. Order yours today at WeatherTech.com. The ultimate protection for your vehicle.
Introducing the all-new DR Leaf and Lawn Vacuum, now at our lowest price ever. The DR cleans up acres of leaves and grass while you mow. In the spring, collect dead grass, wet leaves, and twigs from storm damage. Come summer, the DR makes a great high-capacity bagger, and in the fall, turns days of raking into a drive in the park. When it's time to unload, nothing could be easier. Look, just one hand. Plus, with the collector top removed, you've got a rugged utility cart that's great for all kinds of hauling chores. The DR is the most powerful, most versatile lawn machine you can buy.
Call 1-800-708-2105 for a free buyer's guide and DVD. Try a DR Leaf Vac on your own property for 1 year. Free shipping is now in effect, and our easy financing plan lets you make low monthly payments. That's 1-800-708-2105. Online at drleafvac.com.
The only Emmy-nominated weather network on cable.
When this much rain falls, it is a life-threatening situation.
Is the most essential coverage on TV.
Currently in our area, 75 degrees under clear skies. Tonight, generally clear. Low 59. Winds south-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday, sunny along with a few clouds. High 83. Winds south-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday night, mostly clear skies. Low 66. Winds southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
All right, the Weather Channel has got you covered here as Hurricane Florence gets closer and closer to the southeast coast. It's looking more and more likely that the Carolinas are going to be dealing with a direct impact and landfall here from Hurricane Florence. Now, we don't know exactly where along the South Carolina or North Carolina coast that will occur, so that's why you have to keep tuning in as we get closer to the expected landfall, which will likely happen late Thursday. Again, the unfortunate event is that while it's moving pretty quickly right now, it's going to slow down, and that means inland flooding is going to be a big threat. So don't just focus on where it makes landfall in areas at the coast. We're talking serious issues well away from the beaches. That includes here into Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, and even as far west as Asheville and points in between, even eastern Georgia. We have to keep a close watch on this because it's just going to sit with us even after the weekend. We're talking into Monday. We could be still dealing with tropical depression at that point, Florence, by the time we head into early next week. And at that point, some areas will have already received 1 to 2 feet of rain. No, that's a possibility. And given the situation we've seen so far this summer, flash flooding is going to be a serious concern, if not catastrophic, for certain locations. And again, right now it's so hard to pinpoint exactly where that will be, but do know here in Charlotte and really across North Carolina, South Carolina, even eastern Georgia, Dr. Knabb, that threat for catastrophic flash flooding is certainly on the table and a possibility.
Yeah, a lot of issues inland as well as at the coast. A lot of us have to deal with Florence, and I want to talk a lot to the inland folks here as we go through what Florence could do. We've talked a lot about the coastal issues, but inland, my goodness, you've got some preparation to do. Let's take a look at Florence right now. Category 4 hurricane, still about 700 miles offshore, but it's moving quickly enough that it will be getting here sooner rather than later. Late tomorrow night into early Thursday morning is when the winds of tropical storm force could start arriving, and then landfall will be sometime late Thursday into Friday, but that depends on the exact location and timing of the approach to the coast. It'll be slowing down as it gets here, likely as a major hurricane. Storm surge watches and warnings are up. This is the deadliest hurricane hazard of all. You've got to evacuate if officials have told you to go. Hurricane warnings are up, and we have watches and warnings that are going to be extending inland for wind as well, because this is going to be plowing ashore and not just disappearing at that point. So here we go. Late tomorrow night into early Thursday is when the winds of tropical storm force could arrive, and then once they start, they're going to last a long time, and they're going to extend a good distance inland. Look at the areas that could experience sustained winds of tropical storm force, at least hurricane force gust, if not sustained. So power outages are going to be a big problem in inland areas. So as you get ready for dealing with power outages, realize how dangerous and even deadly they can be. Operate any generators outdoors, not in your garage, far from the building. Don't use candles or any other open flame. Stay away from downed power lines or anything they're touching, including water. And take shelter where there's backup power. Wherever it is you shelter, you need to consider whether or not you have life-sustaining medical equipment. And then, Mike, in addition to the winds, we've got this huge area of the eastern U.S. that could experience 10 to 20, maybe 30 inches of rain, maybe catastrophic flooding in many places.
Sometimes it's just hard to know where to begin with it, Dr. Nab, because there are so many risks. And then on top of what comes with Florence, we know we've got Isaac out there, we've got Olivia out there, we've got Invest 95L. So Florence isn't the only game in town.
No, we have 4 land-threatening systems when you include Florence and Olivia and Isaac, and the system 95L that could form in the Gulf of Mexico over the next few days. Let's take a look at that tropical wave interacting with an upper level trough that's entering the Gulf of Mexico. 7 out of 10 shot that this becomes a depression or a storm before reaching the Texas-Louisiana area. Regardless of what it does or doesn't become, it's going to bring rain, and a lot of it, to portions of Louisiana and especially Texas. And we're already looking at the possibility of flash flooding Thursday night into Friday morning, and that could go beyond that time into Friday and Saturday. Then we've got Olivia that's nearing the Hawaiian Islands. This is not a hurricane, and you might not think it looks like much on satellite, but this could bring tropical storm conditions and locally heavy rainfall, perhaps flash floods and mudslides. The winds are already increasing in Maui and the Big Island as we speak, so we have to be careful over the next couple of days in the Hawaiian Islands. Then Isaac, a strong tropical storm. It's going to be perhaps near hurricane strength as it reaches the Lesser Antilles here in the next couple of days. And there are already hurricane watches up for Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique. Of course, Dominica trying to recover from last year's hit. And we could also, in those islands, get locally heavy rain, flash floods, and mudslides. So, my goodness. Is that enough? Mike, we've got so much to concern ourselves with, but where you are, we've got maybe one day to get ready.
Yeah, catch your breath there, right, Dr. Nab? Dr. Nab, thank you so much. Excellent analyzation, excellent information for you tonight. And folks, we hope you can stay with us here on the Weather Channel. 24/7 coverage continues with our crews in the field. Coming up next here on the Weather Channel, meteorologist Chris Warren live from Morehead City, North Carolina, and Jackie Jarrison, Carl Parker breaking it down from the Weather Channel.
To err is human. To anticipate is Lexus. Experience the Lexus RX with advanced safety. Standard. Experience amazing.
Daryl's family uses Gain Flings now, so their laundry smells more amazing than ever.
Isn't that the dog's towel?
Hey, me towel, Sue towel. More scent plus Oxy Boost and Febreze in every Gain Fling.
DiGiorno crispy pan pizza bakes fresh in its own pan and travels straight to your table.
Unlike delivery that goes from oven to box to bag to car to traffic to wrong houses.
DiGiorno delivers a crispy caramelized crust straight from your oven.
It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
This is your wake-up call.
If you have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis, month after month, the clock is ticking on irreversible joint damage. Ongoing pain and stiffness are signs of joint erosion. Humira can help stop the clock. Prescribed for 15 years, Humira targets and blocks a source of inflammation that contributes to joint pain and irreversible damage.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Help stop the clock on further irreversible joint damage. Talk to your rheumatologist. Right here, right now. Humira.
We give every Honda ATV and side-by-side the technology you need to seize the day. Class-leading technology like automatic dual-clutch transmission. Exclusive to Honda, the DCT lets you ride in automatic mode or manual mode, so you get sporty off-road performance and workhorse muscle all in one. And now, you can seize the day and seize the deals with factory-to-dealer incentives on the Honda ATV or Pioneer side-by-side you've been waiting for. It's all happening at the Honda 4-Wheel Clearance Event, going on now.
Don't paint me as a victim. I am much more interesting than that. I can't do it anymore.
Do you have an occupation?
I do.
And what is that?
I am a kingmaker.
The Wife, rated R. Now playing select cities.
Please, humans first.
I'll come back.
The Veil Intelligent Toilet by Kohler.
Monster Hurricane Florence getting set to bear down on the U.S. East Coast. We are tracking it live for you tonight, and we will have coverage all night long to get you through this potentially catastrophic storm. We want to start out right now giving you the latest on this Category 4 hurricane. It's packing winds at 140 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. Impacts will begin in less than 24 hours from now as residents continue to evacuate their areas from the coast right now and prepare. And you really have less than 24 hours to do that, to get everything done. Thanks so much for staying with us tonight. I'm meteorologist Jackie Jarris. We've got Chris Warren, our meteorologist, live from the field. He's going to be joining us in a minute from Morehead City, North Carolina, where they are preparing for the impacts of Florence. And you can see just how large and powerful this monster storm is. We've had some fluctuations over the last 24 hours, but when we take a look at where we are now compared to yesterday, we're on that same story that we're looking at a major hurricane making landfall likely sometime late Thursday or on Friday. There you can see the forecast cone, and the greatest uncertainty we have tonight lies in what happens after landfall, exactly where it goes and where that flooding is going to be setting up. Well, we want to get you updated on what we know. President Trump has approved federal emergency declarations for Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. This clears the way for federal assistance in the Outer Banks. North Carolina officials are suspending ferry service from Ocracoke Island tomorrow morning at 9:30. That's the last way to get out, as this island is only accessible by ferry. And in South Carolina, the state opening up an additional 4,500 shelters for evacuees. The mayor of Washington, D.C. has issued a state of emergency for the city. Well, we want to get to the current situation with Florence right now. Our storm specialist, Carl Parker, has been tracking this all night. And Carl, what's the latest?
Well, you know, it still looks like it's on track to move into the Carolinas. That's going to be coming up, as you mentioned, late Thursday into Friday. The big question now is what is going to happen after that point. And there is a lot of confusion in the longer term. The modeling has really changed here in the last 24 hours. We'll talk about that in a moment. There you see the storm still looking very, very solid here on the satellite picture. Maybe some dry air getting involved in the southwest side, but that eye wall is just as robust as ever, and so no change in the thinking in terms of the intensity of the storm. It is likely going to be a very strong storm, possibly a Category 4 as it is approaching, and that will be during the day on Thursday, and then coming in most likely late Thursday and going into Friday. And we are still expecting that the storm is going to dramatically slow down at that point, and that is going to prolong those effects. The surge, the wind, the very heavy rainfall, all of those effects will be prolonged in areas of eastern North Carolina and also into eastern South Carolina. And the big shift that we have seen in the modeling is that it may not move off to the northwest, but it may move more towards the west in the longer term. And so you see what's showing up here in the forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. They've bent it a little more towards the west. And so you've got a very large circle here. That's the forecast uncertainty that you've got out to that length of time there. And that involves a huge area, and so there are a lot of different scenarios, and we could be talking about some parts of the central and maybe even southern Appalachians getting involved in some of the effects of this storm. There you see the alerts that went up today. Hurricane warnings for the eastern part of North Carolina from the Outer Banks into the Sounds down into South Carolina. Tropical storm watches just outside of Raleigh. Hurricane watches into that 95 corridor as well. There you see the tropical storm force wind probabilities here. An enormous area being implicated from southern parts of Virginia all the way down through the Carolinas and even into Georgia as well. And I'll show you one model depiction of the storm coming in. So here you see the wind really starting to pick up during the day tomorrow. By the time we get into the middle of the day on Thursday, very strong winds affecting those coastal areas of North Carolina. Then going into late Thursday, we see the hurricane force winds coming in. Surge is going to be maximized at that point, and that continues into very early Friday morning as well. Then the big question is the storm going to continue to move inland? There's some modeling that suggests that it could actually hang up along the coast there and drift to the south and to the west. And that would be devastating, obviously, in coastal areas of North Carolina, but also possibly in South Carolina as well. It's a very tricky forecast. I want to show you what's going on with the upper air pattern here. And we've got this really strong ridge of high pressure in the upper atmosphere. So that's what has been driving this storm to the west, which is really unusual given where the storm started in the Atlantic. Well, the change between yesterday and today is that rather than having this ridging sort of moving along and allowing the storm to move out to the northwest, what happens as we go into the weekend, that's Saturday afternoon, is we see a stronger ridge developing in the Midwest, and that prevents the storm from moving northwest and allows it more to move to the west and maybe even west-southwest. And so when you look at the, for example, hurricane forecast tracks here, the ensemble tracks from the European model, this is a radically different picture as compared to what we were looking at yesterday, where most of these tracks from the European model were up into this area, into parts of the Virginias and also into the Carolinas. We see a definitive shift off to the south and to the west. And so that could mean a couple of things, Jackie. That could mean, again, you're talking about possibly a prolonged period of devastating impacts in coastal areas of the Carolinas. And then in the longer term, that heavier rain coming down into entirely different areas, into more of South Carolina, maybe even Georgia, as opposed to Virginia and West Virginia.
Yeah, so much uncertainty down the line still. So folks really need to keep it here for all those changes. We want to head out live to the field now. Our meteorologist, Chris Warren, is in Morehead City. And Chris, paint us a picture of what people have been going through today as they prepare for Florence.
Well, you know, it's really a pretty quiet scene now, especially this evening here in Morehead City, North Carolina. Barely even see a soul walking around here, walking around town, and driving in from Raleigh just a few hours ago while it was still light, just a little bit before sunset. A lot of cars were going away from here, going away from the water, going away from the coast, which is ultimately away from this Category 4 monster of a storm that is going to come in with potentially devastating impacts, catastrophic impacts, and some serious language we've been getting from the National Weather Service offices and from the National Hurricane Center. We've been hearing it a lot, and the word's getting out. We're seeing people fueling up. Some gas stations are running out of fuel. Some still have it. You just kind of keep going until you find one. Some areas are boarding up. What I thought was interesting, you're seeing as we have gone around town, seeing people boarding up, and some of the businesses that are boarding up, they're not necessarily leaving yet. Some have spray painted on the outside of the businesses, yes, we're open, but there's no windows. So I imagine if you go in there, it would be dark, or you wouldn't be able to see out. Of course they'd have lights, but it's a pretty quiet scene. And from the people that we've talked to, there's just a sense that this one's different.
Well, not expecting the best. We've as a family, we've sat through every storm down here so far. This one I don't have as good a feeling about, so we're taking extra measures and trying to keep everybody safe and trying to protect the properties. I'm hoping for the best.
And that's really all we can do is hope for the best, because the worst can be everything. Unfortunately, the stakes are very, very high with this. And we know that no two storms are the same when it comes to the wind, when it comes to the rain, when it comes to the surge, when it comes to the coastal impacts. No two storms are the same. Even the same categories coming into the same area, slightly different approach to the coast, or slightly different, timing of it with the high tide or low tide means there's going to be different results. But the results that are possible with this one are going to be statewide, Carl. And we think about this, Carl, is I heard the governor of North Carolina saying that everybody in North Carolina is going to be affected by this. And I was thinking about that. I heard that as I was driving in, and I was thinking about that. Yes, in some way, it's going to range here. The impacts from Florence in North Carolina, it's going to range from an inconvenience for some people. Inland areas, above high ground where trees don't have the possibility of come down, maybe lose some power. It's going to be an inconvenience. For other people, Carl, this storm has the potential to be life-changing.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You're talking about a storm the likes of which we have not seen for a very long time there in the Carolinas. You might have to go back several decades, back to Hurricane Hazel in the 1950s. Now, I want to show you some of the surge impacts that we're talking about. Storm surge warning now in effect for the Outer Banks, for the Sounds, down into Wilmington and down into Myrtle Beach as well. These are the latest forecast numbers from the National Hurricane Center, looking for a surge of 4 to 6 feet on the northern end of the Outer Banks as well as into Myrtle Beach, 6 to 9 feet as you get towards the North Carolina, South Carolina state line there, and then 9 to 13 feet from the southern end of the Outer Banks and down past Morehead City and towards Cape Fear as well. That is a terrific amount of surge, and we're also possibly looking at a storm that is going to hang up along the coast there, in which case you could be talking about an onshore flow over several high tide cycles. So this could be just devastating along the coast. And please, folks, listen to your emergency managers. And if they tell you you've got to get out, you have got to get out. What does 1 to 3 feet of surge do? Well, that can actually pick up a car. You can see rushing water that can easily float a car away when you get to that level. 3 to 6 feet is life-threatening. You have trees, building materials, debris acting as battering rams in that water. By the time you get to 6 to 9 feet, that is reaching above the first floor of your home. You simply will not be able to survive that if you're on the coast and you get a surge that is that high. And we do think that there is that potential. And in fact, it's even higher than that in some sections. 9 to 13 feet, once again, is what we're looking for in southern parts of North Carolina. So, Jackie, the surge could be devastating from this storm. And the thing that's really got us worried is the scenario in which the core actually doesn't come in to the coast, but it hangs up right along the coast and then just drifts south. So you'd be going over several high tide cycles in that case, and then you'd bring a lot more impacts to coastal areas of South Carolina in particular. So, there are huge unknowns in this case. The steering flow is so light by the time you get into that position that it's really difficult to say that there's not one strong feature that's going to come in and definitely do something.
Right.
It's a tough forecast that way.
Right, but either way, no matter where it ends up up going after it reaches the coast, the flood risk is so real.
Huge.
That's not going to change.
Yes.
We just don't know exactly where that's going to set up. So let's talk a little bit more about the rainfall potential along with the flooding, because it will likely flood in places that have never flooded before. That's how significant this risk is. So the locations of that greatest rainfall, of course, is going to depend on the exact track. We think it's going to linger for days, and the flood risk is going to last well into the weekend. That we know. Catastrophic flooding is expected in some locations, not just flash flooding, but we're also talking about river flooding that will continue down the line. Some areas may flood with only a couple of inches of rain. We know the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic in particular have really been saturated so far this summer and early fall now, so it doesn't take as much rain to cause that flooding. And flooding from rivers could occur long after that rain stops. So here's the area where we think the flooding is most likely right now. But keep in mind, this could change in the next 24 hours as things continue to shift inland. But right now, we're really watching that coastal area in southern parts of South Carolina for the highest threat of that flooding and the highest rainfall totals as well. In fact, this is from Thursday through Friday. So that's day 3 seeing that high of a risk, which is very unusual to see that kind of a risk issued that far out in time. As we take a look across the U.S. and how much rainfall we'll typically get from tropical systems, when we look at the extreme end of these, here are a couple of key storms that brought just incredible amounts of rain. Of course, Harvey, we know in Texas, brought that more than 60 inches of rain there. In South Carolina, this is interesting right here, more than 18.5 inches of rain. And in North Carolina, more than 2 feet of rain, and that was Hurricane Floyd that many people remember very well for sure. And keep in mind that, 15, 20 inches of rain in the Carolinas does not do the same kind of damage as it does in other parts of the country, right? Your chances of seeing flooding with lower rainfall amounts are much greater. Here's the latest rainfall forecast between Wednesday and Monday, and you can see that big bullseye right over the coastal plain area, but even some of the big metropolitan areas could see some significant rainfall and flooding. So those folks well inland need to be prepared. Hurricane Florence prompting states of emergency tonight across several states. That includes South Carolina. One of the state's major interstates, 26, was turned one way today to get everyone off the coast. The governor ordered mandatory evacuations for coastal areas from Charleston northward. 800 National Guard soldiers have been activated tonight. And today, most of the beaches were empty as people listened to the warning to get out before Florence moves in. That includes South Carolina. One of the state's major interstates, as we had mentioned, went contraflow for today, along with the evacuations. There you can see the National Guard and folks there getting prepared. They're getting in line to help people, but we want you to get out. So if you are told to evacuate, you need to do that. You don't want to put the life of the emergency responders at risk because you didn't do what you were told to do. All right, let's take a look at what else is going on tonight. In North Carolina, a state of emergency has been issued. The governor there ordering everyone off the state's barrier islands. And people today have been going to the gas station, some waiting to fill up there as well. And there you can see some of the pumps already running out. We'll have more on the preparations and the track of Florence after this.
Oh, you are my sunshine. Oh, my only sunshine.
And my feet, and I'm singing low, when sweet, even more.
This is a beer inspired by nature, made with organic grains and sourced from the finest farms. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold, a beer like no other, with a pure, refreshing taste.
Cologuard, colon cancer screening for people 50 and older at average risk.
I'm here for an important reason, colon cancer screening. There's a bunch of places where screening wouldn't be easy, like here, or here. Nope. But here's a place you can screen for colon cancer anytime with Cologuard, in private, without any special prep. There really is no place like home.
Cologuard is not right for everyone, so ask your doctor if it's right for you.
Enhance your moments. San Pellegrino, tastefully Italian.
Our dad was in the hospital.
Because of smoking.
It still had to have a cigarette.
Had to.
But then we were like,
what are we doing?
The Nicoderm CQ patch helps prevent your urge to smoke all day. Nicoderm CQ. You know why, we know how.
I think it was a great idea.
You should stop. Our old TV provider decided to stop providing our school's games.
So I bought this bad boy. Road trips every Saturday.
And tetanus shots every Monday.
But that Dish guy, the one who listens, he heard this thing coming. He said, switch to Dish.
Game finder.
You get every major D1 football game right here at home.
You want to check out the inside? Carpet's original.
Stay home and get every major D1 game with Dish tuned into you.
Season after season, year after year, customers have found that when it comes to replacing their windows, there's only one company to call, Renewal by Andersen. Call 1-800-352-3613 now. So what makes Renewal by Andersen so good? Fibrex material, an innovative composite material exclusive to Andersen that provides strength and durability, far surpassing vinyl. In fact, it won't warp or bow over time like vinyl does. Get the window replacement solution proven to stand the test of time, plus the peace of mind that comes from a superior service experience. That's Renewal by Andersen. Call 1-800-352-3613 today and get 20% off your entire order with this exclusive TV offer. Again, that's 800-352-3613 for 20% off. Plus, get no money down, no interest, and no payments for 12 months. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-352-3613 now.
911 emergency.
A lot of things can change in an investigation, but the weather never lies.
Storm of Suspicion, the all-new series, premieres October 7th.
Currently in our area, 74 degrees under clear skies. Tonight, generally clear. Low 59. Winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Wednesday, sunny along with a few clouds. High 83. Winds south-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday night, a mostly clear sky. Low 66. Winds southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
With this one, what's very dangerous is not only is the storm surge the primary evacuation and the primary driver of those evacuations and life safety, but unfortunately this thing is forecast to stall out, drop copious amounts of rain, and it's going to be statewide. There are going to be statewide impacts across South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia.
Preparations continue in North Carolina as residents were boarding up windows and doors. Millions evacuating as Hurricane Florence churns ever closer to the eastern seaboard. So we don't want to downplay those effects on the coast because those are going to be real and those are going to be major. But what happens inland potentially could eclipse that and affect more people, Carl.
You're talking about huge potential for flash flooding. And, you know, one of the huge questions that we've got is where exactly is that going to be? Is it going to be from North Carolina on northward into Virginia, as we saw in a lot of the modeling yesterday, or is it now going to be more to the south and to the west? And that's been the trend in the modeling in the last day or so. It doesn't mean that that is necessarily the way that it's going to happen. We want to see if that trend holds when we wake up tomorrow, for example, and we get some new model runs. Are they going to be showing us the same thing? I'll show you what the issues are here in just a moment. But you've got, no matter what happens, a devastating blow coming into the coastline there, into North Carolina, possibly parts of South Carolina. That's going to be stepping up through the day on Thursday, continue continuing into Friday as well. The storm may really just stall out along the coast and then slowly drift farther to the south and to the west. It really slows down into the weekend. So you've got day after day after day of potentially impacts along the coast and the very heavy rain inland. And then you've got a lot of uncertainty after that point as to where the worst of the storm is going to be. There's a look at the hurricane warnings in effect here in parts of North Carolina and South Carolina. That may change yet, depending on where the model guidance takes us. Now, I want to show you the players as the European model sees it. Here is a ridge of high pressure, and so the storm's being steered around that to the west-northwest and towards the coastline. Now notice, as we get into Thursday, the ridge actually sort of develops all around the storm, right through there. So that's the blocker. That's like a blocker in football. It's preventing the storm from moving any farther to the north or west at that point. That's when it really starts to slow down. Now, the difference in the modeling between yesterday and today is what we're seeing here in the Midwest, where yesterday we didn't really have much of a ridge in the Midwest. Today, we're seeing more ridging developing in the Midwest, and that ridging then slowly makes its way across to the north of the system, which could allow it then to move more to the west as opposed to the northwest or north-northwest. So that would mean less of an impact in the Virginias, more of an impact in South Carolina, and also possibly into Georgia. So this is a look at the European ensemble tracks, and this is a really radical shift between yesterday and today. And that's important to consider because things can turn very quickly. That we might even see a shift back to the north between today and tomorrow. So the question is, what trend is going to hold? Are we going to see this trend holding, or are we going to go back to what we were looking at before, which is something more off to the north? And we'll see by tomorrow. We'll have a better idea by tomorrow. But I want to give you a sense of how this could unfold if the European model is correct at this point, showing you the storm coming in there late Thursday and Friday and then slowly moving southwest. That would be devastating to the coastline there in North and South Carolina because it wouldn't be quite inland. So you just have these hour after hour, day after day of pounding along the coastline, very heavy rain inland. And then the heavier rain starts to move more into South Carolina and into Georgia in this scenario. So we'll see, Jackie, if this trend holds. We'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see the modeling tomorrow morning to see if we've got the same thing tomorrow. But, you know, because there can be a real dramatic back and forth. You can get the sort of windshield wipering that occurs. That's entirely possible. And that's why the Hurricane Center's, you know, reluctant to move their cone really radically because they don't want to be shifting it in a very jerky manner, which is completely understandable. But we'll see tomorrow what the modeling is going to show us.
And we want to send that really consistent message. And that's also a really good thing to point out, I think, is that when we look at that cone of uncertainty, if you're not in it, it doesn't mean you're not going to have those impacts.
Absolutely.
So really, everybody in the Southeast, wouldn't you say, is fair game for having some type of impact from Florence and really needs to pay attention to it.
At this point, the potential is over an enormous area from the Virginias all the way down into Georgia and, you know, points further west as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that flooding and why the risk is so great. It doesn't have to do with just Florence itself. It has to do with what's already in place, and that's been a lot of soil moisture and a lot of heavy rain. Year-to-date rainfall in some of these locations. Check it out. Wilmington, more than 62 inches. Norfolk, 45 inches of rainfall. Hatteras, nearly 60 inches of rain. That's since January, so we are talking about top 5 wettest year on record to date in many of these locations. Baltimore, number 1. Asheville, number 2. Wilmington, number 1, with that 62+ inches of rainfall. Now, this much rain in the Carolinas is very different than this much rain somewhere else in the country, right? And a lot of that has to do with topography and the additional enhancement that we have from the Appalachian Mountains, right? So the winds are going to be pushed in from Florence, and that will get forced up the mountains, causing that moist air to rise, and that enhances the rainfall amount that you get. So the numbers, oftentimes, I think when we look at models for rainfall, they tend to be a little bit underdone rather than overdone. Well, we continue to track the very dangerous Hurricane Florence as it moves ever closer. We'll talk more about the greater concerns coming up.
can't read a thing off of here.
All right, have we decided?
We actually forgot our readers.
Here you go.
As your eyes get older, the adjustments you make can be frustrating. Ask your eye doctor about Dailies Total One multifocal contact lenses. They let you see clearly near and far with a contact lens that feels like nothing. Learn more and get a free 5-day trial at seenearandfar.com.
Nothing outlasts Energizer Ultimate Lithium. Hey, you can't do that. Can he do that?
Yeah, he's good.
Energizer Ultimate Lithium. It's the #1 longest lasting battery.
Driving wind and rain can cost you thousands in repairs. Hi, Phil Swift here. This storm season, get the entire family of Flex Seal products. Everyone loves Flex Seal, the easy way to coat, seal, protect, and stop leaks fast. This rubberized coating creates a super strong barrier. It's actually liquid rubber in a can. And our incredible Flex Seal liquid starts out super thick and turns into a strong, flexible rubber that creates a watertight seal that lasts for years. With Flex Shot, you can caulk, bond, and seal out the elements. Simply push the trigger to make quick repairs. And for big storm damage, there's Flex Tape, the super strong waterproof tape. Heavy wind and rain can destroy your home, but Flex Glue holds on tight, even in the toughest conditions. Just like batteries and flashlights, make the Flex Seal family part of your storm preparation kit.
First dates, they can be a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. Kind of like my constipation.
Let's not talk about constipation.
Did I make it more uncomfortable?
Say no more to occasional constipation with clinically proven effective Senecot. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back.
If you live with diabetes, why fingerstick when you can scan? With the Freestyle Libre, a continuous glucose monitoring system, you can check your glucose levels anytime without fingersticks. With the Freestyle Libre system, just scan the sensor and manage your diabetes. You can do it without fingersticks. Freestyle Libre is available with a prescription at participating pharmacies. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Don't forget that the past can speak to the future.
I'm going to be your substitute.
Don't assume the substitute teacher has nothing to offer. Same goes for a neighborhood. Don't forget that friendships last longer than any Broadway run. Mr. President. Don't settle for your first draft or your 10th draft. You get to create the room where it happens. Just don't think you have to do it alone. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't live life without it.
This is a monster. We're potentially going to see catastrophic damage, especially at the coast, but far-reaching effects.
This is a scary sight. This is a powerful, powerful hurricane. Storm surge could take a lot of lives if we don't take it seriously. This hurricane means serious business.
I'm meteorologist Chris Warren here in Morehead City, North Carolina. We are tracking Florence, a major hurricane, a Category 4 monster that has the potential to cause devastating, catastrophic, potentially historic impacts with this. From the strong winds this beast of a storm is going to bring to the shoreline, to the epic flooding that all signs now are showing is possible. It's not as much now a matter of if it's going to happen, it's where. And the areas that we're looking at here, from where I am in North Carolina, the Outer Banks, all the way up to Virginia, and then down to South Carolina, and areas inland are going to also be feeling the effects of tropical storm force winds. But one of the stories that's going to be lingering even into next week will be the ongoing flood threat. As this storm approaches the coast, it is going to dump an obscene amount of rainfall. And as it does, first to flood will be the low-lying areas, the streams, the creeks, and then that river flooding could last into early next week. So here at the Weather Channel, we have crews spread out all across parts of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. Again, I'm right here in Morehead City, North Carolina. Atlantic Beach is just beyond the darkness here, across the Sound, and it is certainly not the place you want to be. A wonderful place to vacation on any given September day or night for that matter. It is hot, it is humid right now, but now is not the time to make your way to the beach. It is time to get away from the beach, and people here have been heeding that. I just talked to a family who plans to leave first thing in the morning, heading to Maryland, going away. And remember too, as people evacuate, as you evacuate, you have to think about where you're going. Just getting away from the coast isn't going to be enough. You're going to need to be in a sturdy structure. You're going to need to be in an area that is not in a floodplain and where you're not in danger of trees coming down on structures. And another one of the things that we have to deal with is you see right here. Do you see how calm and quiet the water is? No boats at this dock. There's a couple boats off in the distance, but nothing right here. It is quiet. It is like glass right there. That is going to change in a big way. Water is going to be a huge concern. We're going to talk a lot about the rain coming down, the flooding, but then water coming inland. It's going to be the surge, the push, this dramatic push from this Category 4 hurricane that is already bringing the threat for waves up to 20 to 40 feet high. Can you imagine that? Waves that tall offshore. And then some of that surge, right where we are here. We're talking the potential for 9 to 13 feet. That's a reasonable worst case scenario. So it's possible. And that is something that is going to be destructive. And we want to go right now to storm specialist Carl Parker. And Carl, with so many different threats here, it's almost, it's hard to, kind of focus and put this into a timeline here because in some cases, it's going to be happening all at once.
Yeah, and the thing that's really scary, Chris, is you've got such a strong storm coming towards the coastline, and there are some indications in the modeling that the storm could hang up on the coast going into Friday and then slowly drift to the southwest and just batter the coastline there hour after hour, day after day, and then slowly make its way off to the west. So that would maximize all of the impacts. The wind would go on that much longer. The surge would go on that much longer over several high tide cycles. We'd be looking at a catastrophic rain inland. This has the potential to be a disaster in many areas. And we're looking at a Category 4 storm right now. It's now moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour, so it has picked up some forward speed. There's been no change in the thinking in terms of the intensity. It's expected to be a major hurricane, quite possibly a Category 4 as it comes into the coastline, and it's going to be moving in most likely during the day on Thursday. Conditions starting to go downhill as early as tomorrow night, but then getting worse progressively through the day on Thursday. And then that's when the storm really slows down. So again, that's going to prolong those impacts along the coast. The surge impacts, the heavy rain, the inland flooding, very strong winds. There's going to be a tornado threat as well. All of that is going to be amplified and worsened dramatically because the storm is going to be moving so slowly off to the west. And in the worst case, one model indicating that it might actually be just offshore, in which case it probably wouldn't weaken as quickly as it's moving off to the southwest. You notice this is a very large area towards the end of this cone here. That's the average forecast area. So these are all areas that could be affected by this storm across the southeast. We're going to talk much more about that coming up in a few minutes. As we go to break, we take a look at Nags Head, North Carolina. If you are still thinking about evacuating, you do not have much time to finalize those plans. Tropical storm force winds likely coming in tomorrow evening.
Lovely. How does one make such delightful cucumber sandwiches?
Frank's Red Hot sauce, Your Majesty. I put that on everything.
Frank's Red Hot Original, the perfect blend of flavor and heat.
Feel the clarity of non-drowsy Claritin and relief from symptoms caused by over 200 allergens, like those from Buddy. Because stuffed animals are clearly no substitute for real ones. Feel the clarity and live Claritin Clear.
For those restless spirits, and for those who thirst for more, Coors Light is colder, cleaner, and crisper. To refresh you for what's next, Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
Bringing my Giovanni Rana pasta to everyone in America wasn't so easy. So I made it easy for America to find me. In the refrigerated section, Giovanni Rana pasta. Share what's inside.
See,
Feel. Climb. First out, last in. Look round corners. Look in crannies. Go down dark alleys. Lose yourself. Catch a lift. Push boundaries. Go walkabout. Get set. Go after the goosebumps. Never stop discovering.
Your insurance rates skyrocket after a scratch so small you could fix it with a pen. How about using that pen to sign up for new insurance instead?
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Once Daily Toujeo helps you control your blood sugar. Toujeo not only provides stable blood sugar control around the clock, the Max Solo Star holds 900 units of insulin in one pen. This could mean fewer refills of Toujeo. All that and a $0 copay. That's something to groove about.
Let's go tonight. Share the spice of life.
From the makers of Lantus, Toujeo provides blood sugar lowering activity all day, all night, and beyond. Proven blood sugar control all day and all night, and can significantly lower your A1C. Toujeo is used to control high blood sugar in adults with diabetes. It contains 3 times as much insulin in 1 milliliter as standard insulin. Don't use Toujeo to treat diabetic ketoacidosis during episodes of low blood sugar or if you're allergic to insulin. Get medical help right away if you have a serious allergic reaction, such as body rash or trouble breathing. Don't reuse needles or share insulin pens. The most common side effect is low blood sugar, which can be life-threatening. It may cause shaking, sweating, fast heartbeat, and blurred vision. Check your blood sugar levels daily. Injection site reactions may occur. Don't change your dose of insulin without talking to your doctor. Tell your doctor about all your medicines and medical conditions. Check insulin label each time you inject. Taking TZDs with insulins like Toujeo may cause heart failure that can lead to death. Find your rhythm and keep on grooving. To experience Toujeo, ask your doctor.
That's a mini wheat. Delicious. But it's more than that. 10 layers of crunchy wheat to fill you up on big days. Whether your day involves steam, mountains, or fire, we've got your breakfast right here. Is your breakfast built for big days?
I've been here for about 7 years and I've never boarded up before, but I got a feeling I should take precautions with this one. I mean, weather is powerful and we don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, I can't be scared, but I want to be prepared.
That is the phrase of today, for sure. Don't be scared, be prepared. We want to get you caught up with what we know at this hour. The president has now approved Virginia's emergency declaration. This clears the way for federal help. North and South Carolina's requests have also been approved. The mayor of Washington, D.C. has issued a state of emergency for the city, and tolls are now suspended on the Chesapeake Expressway to help those evacuating. Florence is taking aim at the Carolina coast. Tonight, people in North and South Carolina are evacuating or boarding up. NBC's Jay Gray is in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, with a look at how people are preparing for the worst.
It's moving day across the southeast.
It's important for us to evacuate. We don't need to take chances.
Even the Navy shipping out ahead of the storm.
We are in a very deadly and important game of chess with Hurricane Florence.
The next move for more than 1 million along the coast is to higher ground.
For us, we've never been through one. We don't have a clue what to do or where to go.
Officials warning, even those who've been through storms before, this one is different.
This storm is a monster. Don't bet your life on riding out a monster.
Laura Burton is securing everything she can before she leaves.
I have a second story, so I took all the electronics upstairs, the TV and everything.
On the first floor, the furniture is raised and stacked, guarding against a potential storm surge.
Hurricane Florence is the strongest storm to target the Carolinas and this part of our country in decades.
Still, there are some who plan to ride it out.
We're ready. We're ready every year. And, if it's your time, it's your time.
The time to prepare leaving or staying is running out across the strike zone.
Rain and strong winds expected here sometime tomorrow, and then conditions only get worse as the storm approaches through landfall late Thursday into early Friday morning.
Jay Gray, NBC News, Carolina Beach, North Carolina.
Thanks, Jay. We want to get you up to date now on some of the wind impacts that we're expecting from Florence and let you know how much time you have left to be prepared and get ready to get out of there, because once the tropical storm force winds arrive, you're pretty much going to be stuck in place. Bridges get shut down, travel becomes too dangerous that you just can't go out. So here's the timing that we're expecting, the earliest timing of the onset of the tropical storm force winds. That's 39 miles per hour or greater for those sustained winds. And notice the area here coming in, getting close towards the coast, starting on Wednesday night. So we're talking, just under 24 hours to rush those final preparations to completion. And then look how far inland this goes already by Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that starts to move inland into some of those major metropolitan areas, looking at Raleigh, looking at Norfolk, looking at Virginia Beach. So let's show you our current model simulation of the timing of all these winds and how those strong winds will be picking up. Notice as we head through the day tomorrow, we'll start to watch those gusts begin to pick up. But by Thursday morning, we'll start to see those stronger winds make their way towards the Outer Banks, push towards the Wilmington area, and then we'll likely see some of the hurricane force winds begin to arrive as we head into your Friday, and that's when the real hunkering down happens. Also, those winds will push the water ashore, and we've got storm surge watches and warnings which have been put into effect from the Virginia-North Carolina state line all the way down to the south of Charleston. Well, another big threat from Florence is that storm surge I was just mentioning, and hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knabb shows us now what to expect in the coming days.
Storm surge watches and warnings have been up. Evacuation instructions have been issued. And here is why you need to evacuate. We need to be afraid of water. Let's take a look at what storm surge flooding actually looks like and what it can do. Even when you don't get to the 3-foot threshold of life threatening, 1, 2, or 3 feet of storm surge flooding can be highly problematic and dangerous because 6 inches of water can take you off your feet. 1 or 2 feet of water can wash a car off the roadway, and it can even cause power to go out. But when you get to that life-threatening threshold of 3 feet, things really change. And this is the threshold that storm surge watches and warnings are focused on, 3 feet or greater, because the water will be moving. It can have debris, trees, floating objects that can injure you, and you don't even know all that is in the water, and the water can be halfway up your front door at that point, or maybe even close to getting over your head. It's definitely in over your head once you get to the 6 to 9 foot threshold. This could be above the first floor of your home. Major damage, and it can not only get into buildings, it can destroy buildings. And storm surge is not just a beachfront problem. It can extend not only blocks, but miles inland. So if you haven't already been told to evacuate, and if you haven't already gone, find out right now if you live in an evacuation zone, decide where you go and how to get there. Consider special needs, where you're going to take shelter. If you're in a safe place, be someone's evacuation destination, and if you're instructed to leave, you go right away. And don't vertically evacuate in a high rise. Get out of the storm surge warning areas.
Well, Hurricane Florence, we can't stress enough to you how dangerous the storm will be in the coming days. We're looking live at Charlotte, North Carolina. Make sure you have a plan in place. You could deal with devastating impacts.
Olay Regenerist wipes out the competition. Hydrating better than $100, $200, even $400 creams. With our B3 complex, beautiful skin doesn't have to cost a fortune. Olay.
Today we're opening more than 150,000 locations called Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get Domino's delivered to every single one of them. You get 2 medium, 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each.
Domino's Hotspots. Delivery to parks, beaches, and other outdoor locations near you.
Brand new day is at my feet, and I'm singing low and sweet, giving more.
This is a beer inspired by nature, made with organic grains and sourced from the finest farms. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. A beer like no other, with a pure, refreshing taste.
Here we go. Discover.
I like your card, but I'm absolutely not paying an annual fee.
Discover has no annual fees.
Really? Yeah.
We just don't believe in them.
Oh, nice. You would not believe how long I've been rehearsing that.
No annual fee on any card, only from Discover.
At the dinner table, nobody talks about football. I like to teach them there's more important things in life. My name is Ted Ginn. I eat Stouffer's lasagna, and I hunger to coach athletes into men. Stouffer's, what are you hungry for?
The moment you realize grilling out shouldn't mean missing out.
At Lowe's, you can buy your next grill online and pick up at the store so you can get grilling sooner.
Get up to 20% off select grill smokers and accessories during the Lowe's grill clearance.
What might seem like a small cough can be a big bad problem for your grandchildren. Babies too young to be vaccinated against whooping cough are the most at risk for severe illness. Help prevent this. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today about getting vaccinated against whooping cough.
Meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy.
With instant acceleration, electric cars are more fun to drive and more affordable than ever. Electric cars are here. Plug in to the present.
This is your dog. He needs a walk while the family's out. That's where WAG comes in. WAG lets you book a dog walker whenever you need. This is Faith. She's great with dogs.
I grew up with a beagle and a golden retriever.
Plus, she's been vetted by WAG.
I always open the door slowly, just in case the dog is waiting behind it.
And knows her stuff. Faith knows how to give your dog a great walk, and she fills you in on all the details. That's why you use WAG, because of great walkers like Faith. Get your first walk free when you download the app now.
My prescriptions used to be really expensive, but then I went to GoodRx.com.
It just works. You put in the drug you're looking for, and bang, you've got half a dozen or more choices in front of you of pricing and locations to get it.
You never think about shopping around for medication prices.
I have good insurance, but with GoodRx, I save even more money.
What? I was paying how much?
And it's absolutely free. No cost to me whatsoever.
I get to save $1,180 a year with GoodRx. This is awesome.
Go to GoodRx.com and check it out.
911 emergency.
A lot of things can change in an investigation, but the weather never lies.
Storm of Suspicion, the all-new series, premieres October 7th.
Currently in our area, 71 degrees under clear skies. Tonight, generally clear. Low 59. Winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Wednesday, sunny along with a few clouds. High 83. Winds south-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday night, a mostly clear sky. Low 66. Winds southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
All of the models agree that Virginia can expect significant impacts.
As we are taking this very seriously, we would urge our citizens in the city of Charleston to do the same.
This is a very dangerous hurricane, but we are not going to gamble with the lives of the people of South Carolina, not a one.
The big picture is that it's better to be safe than sorry.
All right, we are watching a very dangerous storm as it makes its way towards the coastline, and a lot of open questions about the forecast, but we do think it's going to continue to be very intense as it nears the coast. That's going to be on Thursday, likely coming in Thursday or Friday, though there is question about whether it actually will make landfall. It may hang up very close to the coast and then slowly drift to the southwest. A 140-mile-per-hour storm right now, Category 4 intensity. It's moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. We expect to get a new advisory coming up at 11 p.m. or just before. Really, really tricky forecast here in the longer term. Again, we think the storm is going to be moving in during the day on Thursday. Could very well be a Category 4 hurricane as it comes in, and that is going to mean devastating impacts in terms of storm surge flooding along the coast there. We could be looking at a 9 to 13-foot surge from the southern part of the Outer Banks down towards Cape Fear. You've got to be off the coast in those areas. This is life-threatening surge. surge we're talking about, very strong wind as well. And then the storm is going to dramatically slow down. Now, you see that here in the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, but it's possible. It is possible that it slows down even more than this. For example, the European model, here you see the forecast position on Sunday, forecast point there in the western part of North Carolina. The European model actually has it more towards southern parts of South Carolina. So again, it may come up towards the coast and then just very slowly drift towards the southwest over the next few days after that, and that would be devastating for all of the coastline there in North Carolina, as well as into South Carolina, because you'd be talking about hour after hour after hour of the wind impacts, of the surge impacts over several high tide cycles. That would be just awful for the coastline there, and this is what we're seeing right now in the European model. And we're eagerly awaiting to see the new model run that's going to be overnight tonight, and we'll get that information early tomorrow morning. So when you wake up tomorrow, tune into the Weather Channel, and we'll have all the latest information on that new model run. Now, the tropics in general are very active right now. There is a lot going on, not just in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific, but also in the Western Pacific. We want to focus on a few of these storms. Olivia, which is very close to Hawaii, Invest 95L in the Gulf and coming up into the Gulf, and then also Tropical Storm Isaac. Let's begin with that. Isaac now a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm and moving towards the west at 17 miles per hour. It is expected that it will become a hurricane as it moves off towards the west here for a short period of time. Could very well get up to that, and it's going to be a strong tropical storm then going through the Caribbean after that. And the hurricane watches are now up for some of the islands here, as hurricane force winds are entirely possible. It's going to be really, really close to possibly becoming a hurricane as it comes through the island. So that is one storm that we're watching. Another one that we've got our eyes on is Invest 95L, and the Hurricane Center now giving this a 70% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 5 days, and that possible development area is off to the northwest. Now, in this case, it may be that the most significant threat from this storm is very heavy rainfall. It may not have enough time nor the ideal conditions to develop quickly, so we could be looking at very heavy rain along the coastal bend of Texas there into Corpus Christi and right over into the hill country as well, maybe a large area of 3 to 5 inches of rain. So that's what we'll be looking for in that case. And then here is Olivia, which really does not look like very much. If you look very closely, you can see a swirl right there. So a lot of the deep convection has been removed from this storm for the time being. Here you see the forecast calling for a more rapid decline in intensity than we were looking at yesterday, and that is due in part to what's going on right now. Still, though, there could be some gusty winds coming into the islands and some heavier rain, but it looks like the threats are coming down here in Hawaii. So at least some good news in the tropical arena.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people have a lot of questions. We've been trying to get through them all week. And Carl, we have a question from Susan Bentley, and she wants to know, why is the GFS so different than the Euro, and which one is right?
Well, you know, there are some differences between the two right now. I wouldn't say that they're radically different right now, but there are some differences. Both of these models have been showing this turn more towards the west and west-southwest. So they're both picking up on the idea that the ridging in the Midwest and across the northern part of the country may be stronger, and that would not allow the system to move as far to the northwest, but more towards the west. So that really changes what happens farther inland. And, you know, as I say, we're eagerly awaiting tomorrow morning's run to see what happens.
Oh, yeah. Eyes on that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, stay with the Weather Channel as we continue to track Florence and bring you the latest information minute by minute. We have our meteorologists spread out all up and down the East Coast as the storm closes in. It's hurricane coverage you can trust.
Today we're here to talk about trucks.
I love trucks.
Whoa, what the heck is that? What truck brand comes from the family of the most dependable, longest-lasting, full-size pickups on the road?
I think it's a Chevy.
Ford. Is it Ford? It's not Ford. I think it's Ram. It's not Ram either.
That's
Chevy.
Gorgeous.
Trade up to this Silverado to get a total value of $10,500 when you finance with GM Financial. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
How do you top mac and cheese? Start with 100% clean ingredients, like Vermont white cheddar. Then add bacon, barbecue chicken, or Baja Blend. Catering and delivery now available. Panera, food as it should be.
Daryl's family uses Gain Flings now, so their laundry smells more amazing than ever.
Isn't that the dog's towel?
Hey, me towel, Sue towel. More scent plus Oxy Boost and Febreze in every Gain Fling.
People don't expect a female mechanic. They also don't expect lean cuisine made with organic ingredients. But here we are, introducing a new line from Lean Cuisine. My favorite, new Farmer's Market pizza. With its crispy organic crust and mozzarella cheese. Feed your phenomenal with Lean Cuisine.
It's happening October 26th. Publishers Clearinghouse awards the $2,500 a week Forever Prize. Win $2,500 a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $2,500 a week for their life. Enter at PCH.com before it's too late. And October 26th, win forever.
I'll be right back. With moderate to severe Crohn's disease, I was there. Just not always where I needed to be.
Is she all right?
I hope so. So I talked to my doctor about Humira. I learned Humira is for people who still have symptoms of Crohn's disease after trying other medications. And the majority of people on Humira saw significant symptom relief, and many achieved remission in as little as 4 weeks.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Be there for you and them. Ask your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, remission is possible.
Identity thieves know if your social security number is on the dark web. Do you? Find out with Experian. Go to Experian.com/protect for a dark web scan. It's completely free, so visit Experian.com/protect today.
Nothing outlasts Energizer Ultimate Lithium. Hey, you can't do that. Can he do that?
Yeah, he's good.
Energizer Ultimate Lithium. It's the #1 longest lasting battery.
Tracking Florence, this is a dangerous Category 4 hurricane, a monster that is heading toward the Carolinas. Here at the Weather Channel, we're going to be with you through the entirety for landfall and beyond. We have team coverage ready to bring you the very latest as this does evolve. This is going to be a long-term event. Still going to be talking about this into next week with the multiple impacts from the wind and the surge at the coast to the inland flooding that could last well into next week. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren here in Morehead City, North Carolina. Hurricane warnings are posted for the Carolinas, and you need to be on alert. Coastal areas from Virginia all the way down to Georgia. So this storm, a Category 4, a major hurricane, 140-mile-per-hour winds. It is moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles an hour, and it is going to start interacting with the United States firsthand. It's going to start impacting. Some impacts will be felt as early as tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night potentially, and then this storm. I want to say, Jackie, that we're talking about a landfall at a specific time, so we can help people prepare. However, there's a chance this thing's going to be slow to move in,
right?
And that too is going to come with its own dangers and its own issues.
Yes, the probability is there that it could scrape on the coast for quite a while or, meander for a couple of days. So it's something that we're watching very closely. We want to get you caught up to date right now with what we know. President Trump has approved federal emergency declarations for Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. This clears the